Hello and welcome back to the History of Video Games. My name is Ben and I'm joined by the one and only Wes. How you doing, Wes? What's up?
Not too much. I'm doing great. How you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. Yeah, it's been a pretty good day. I feel like I've done a good amount of work today. There's still like tons of chores that have been ignored, but you know, that's for tomorrow.
Yeah, see, that was my I did the opposite. I did my podcast work and I was like, ooh, maybe I'll do some extra research for the podcast. And I was like, no, I want to do laundry and dishes instead. So
I mean that might be fair. That might be fair. Okay. But what games have you been playing?
So the one I wanted to talk about this week is Astroneer. I don't know if you know that one or have heard of it. But it's one in the long list of games that I bought in early access, played for about 5 hours, and then forgot about. And,
how long is this list?
I say long list, but I'll have to count at some point. It's probably not that many, because I've revisited most of them.
Uh-huh.
There might be a couple in there. Depends if you count like Rust and stuff. But anyway, so this one, Astroneer, I played when it was in early access, and now it's just out. I guess it was like 2 years ago that I originally bought it and played it. So it was really fun to come back to it and be like, oh, this is actually like a fully featured game now. But what it is, as the name kind of implies, is space themed. And it's a survival game where you're in this set universe or star system, I guess. Each planet has its own resources that it always has. And they're all named the same, but the terrain is randomly generated on all of the planets. So it's sort of randomly generated, sort of not. But it's got this really interesting graphical style, which is just like tons of like blocks of bright color. When I say blocks, I mean like everything's like one color with not many gradients, not physical blocks, but it's like a voxel sort of low poly looking graphics too.
Okay.
And you have this gigantic like excavator gun where you can just, dig through the world. People have cut the planets in half over like many, many hours before. But yeah, so it's got that whole feel to it. And you land on this planet. You don't really have a goal, I don't think. In the alpha, the ship like exploded your main like space station, but in this is just like sitting up in orbit. It's fine. So I guess you're just surviving for the heck of it. So that part's a little bit weird because I do like, survival games, I'm fine with them being open-ended, but at least like some type of motivation is nice. But this game does really interesting stuff with base building. Like, there's no materials that you can build with. It's all buildings that you make. You start out with the shelter and then you attach a generator to it, a 3D printer of varying sizes. You can make like space rovers. And it's kind of weird. I kind of wish you could just make like a house, like some weird futuristic base, instead of there just being like, this is the shelter building.
Mm-hmm.
But it does help the fact that you sort of need to like make a tiny base on all of the planets to get all the resources you need to continue. So you don't feel as bad as like leaving your base behind to go somewhere else because it's just like a couple buildings you put together. But the cave exploration is one of the things that it does super well. Everything just looks really good in the game. The resources like kind of spawn out of the ground. They're not like nodes like Minecraft or World of Warcraft. They're kind of just like these big clusters, and they all look different and really like jagged, like stalactites and stuff like that, and bright colors, and just really like out there and weird. And one of the things that I love about it the most visually is all of these resources get kind of bundled up into this little cylinder of resources that you keep on your back that's made of all these little pieces. And whenever you like use resin that you gathered in a machine to illustrate the time of how long it's going to take to make whatever you're making, it like slowly takes away one piece out of that cylinder in like a rotation, and it creates this really cool visual effect that's hard to describe, so it's better just to look it up. And the inventory system is just really strange too, not necessarily in a bad way. There's no like inventory tab, but you have physical slots on your backpack where you put all of the resources. so you can always see everything that you have on you, like sticking off of your backpack. Um, yeah, it's just totally out there. The spaceflight is a little disappointing. I would like to kind of just like fly around, but instead it's launch into orbit or launch to another planet, and it kind of just throws you there automatically. But what it does do, because it's sort of on rails in that aspect, is it creates a really like tailored experience for an open world survival game in a weird way. Like there's certain things that they have set up to be a specific way so it like looks cool, and you get this feeling of awe when you travel to another planet, because it's you can't just fly around and do whatever you want. You're automatically going on sort of this path that they determined for you.
Mhm.
But the planets do orbit, so that changes every time. You kind of like look through the star system anytime you want to travel and select the other planet. But yeah, it's just for a survival game in space that I feel like I would have seen every incarnation of by now. This just does everything like a little bit different, and it's really fun too. I'm lacking the motivation to go back to it now because, like I said, there's no like real motivator for me other than there's these weird alien artifacts that I need to explore. But
Gotcha.
yeah, all just like the weird different stuff that it does is really cool. So it's definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, definitely. It sounds pretty cool, actually. I like the sound of it.
It's really chill too, which is nice. I mean,
Mhm.
you have to always be connected to oxygen, which is a little stressful, but like in general, just the vibe is like it's real nice to just like sit down, relax, and play for a little bit.
Right, right. Okay, nice.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I've been doing recently. What have you been playing? Although I think I might know the answer.
Yeah. Not too much, honestly. I've been working on a YouTube video for the podcast music, and I haven't been playing too much, but I have been playing a lot of chess still. I play it just about every day, and my rating has not gone up really since last time. But I'm at a solid like 1250 kind of rating, which I my goal is to get to 1350 because for whatever reason on my chess profile it says my all-time highest score was like 1340, which is just not possible. I don't know. Maybe like when I made an account, it started you at like 1350 and I lost like the first game and it was like, hey, your high score is 1340. I don't know. But there's just no way that I ever did that. So I would like to like surpass that so I can say my all-time highest score was actually earned. So that's kind of my goal. So I've gotten close. I've gotten into the 1300s, but
Ooh, okay.
I'd say right now I'm still like 1250 usually. But yeah, so I thought maybe it'd be fun just to like, I don't know, do something a little different. I invited you to a match, Wes, just before we started recording. Just to,
Yeah.
flex a little bit now. I have played our mutual friend Chris quite a bit, and one of the games I played, I won a game against him, and I didn't have a rook, so I thought, oh, maybe it'd be fun to play you without a rook, and we also did without a pawn as well.
Right.
And we did a 10-minute game, and I don't know, I had a good time. It was challenging. You were like actually not just like throwing pieces away, which
Oh, good,
is what I
good.
was hoping for. So
That's good to hear. And to give a little background for listeners, I basically know how to move all the pieces and like some semblance of thinking maybe 2 turns ahead. But that's it. Like I don't do strategies. I was in chess club in high school, but all I did was talk to people. I didn't actually play chess. So that's why the moderately heavy handicap for Benjamin to make sure I had a chance.
And I think like going back and analyzing the game afterwards, there was definitely parts where I could have lost the game, but luckily towards the end you were running out of time, and that's ultimately how I won.
Yes.
Because you ran out of time. But it was like kind of even towards the end, but I made kind of a risky play, and it was possible to maybe capitalize on it. But it was definitely a fun game. So we'll have to play again sometime, definitely.
Yes,
But I definitely
absolutely.
enjoyed it.
I can't promise I'll study that much more. I enjoy chess, but it's not like I'm not super into it. But
Right.
I learned a couple things. I think it brought my brain back up to speed with how to play chess.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you don't really need to study much when like I'm missing a rook or something.
Right? Yeah.
At that point you can just try to trade all your pieces and you'll be up a rook. So, but yeah, it's interesting because even at like the level I'm playing most games at, I know the openings a little bit, and I know some basic principles about like pawn structure and stuff, but realistically, what ends the majority of my games is either me or my opponent gives away a piece for free. Like it still happens. And it's just hard to not do that over the course of a 40 or 50 move game, you know? You can
Right.
be perfect for 39 moves and then move 40, you hang your queen and it's over. So, yeah, it's you have to be on it like the whole way through, and that's very challenging. So, I enjoy it though. I don't know. I'm just kind of geared for that kind of game. So,
Yeah, yeah. Well, cool. Yeah, it was fun learning the ropes a little bit.
yeah. So let's go into the special topic. I thought maybe since we had so many computer games last episode that we can go back and kind of talk about the big three computers, because last year they were such a big deal. We had probably like at least three special topics on them.
Right.
One for each. The Apple II, the Commodore PET, and the TRS-80. And now that it's been like a year, just be like, what have these computers done for us? What are the games on them, and which ones do we like the most? So before we like get into the personal preference side of things, let me kind of give a quick overview of some of the games on these systems. So for the Commodore PET, some of the games that we've talked about include Lander and Baseball, which were on the very first PET episode. There was also that shark game, one called 17 und 4, which was a blackjack game that actually looked pretty okay. And of course, Zap, which was the snake game that Wes took a look at, I believe, last episode. And then for the TRS-80, we've got more of the RPG stuff like Journey to the Center of the Earth, Devil's Dungeon, and Knight's Quest, which I really enjoyed. And then for the Apple II, we have other games like the Maze game and Escape from Silas Warner and Muse. We have Bomber and Star Wars by Bob Bishop. And we even do have a couple RPGs like Haunted House, for instance. So those are a couple of the games. Really quickly going through just my experiences with the differences in kind of general with the games. For the PET, it's very simple graphics. I'm sure there's like a name for this style. Everything kind of seems to be built off of like almost lines. Like if you look at an old calculator and it can make like an 8 out of like 3 horizontal lines and 4 vertical lines, right? Kind of like in that style is how I think about it.
Right.
So very simple graphics. Most of the games have like a background green color. So there's a lot of green in this. It's not really in any other color. It's like greens and blacks. But also for the PET, I've noticed that there's a lot of really low frame rate games
Yeah.
that just cannot handle very fast things.
Yeah, whatever the computing is, I think it might. I know the PET wasn't super duper strong anyway, but I think a lot of it ends up being the languages that are available on it.
Right.
I think a lot of them were likely written in like BASIC, which tends to have to really think about what it's doing,
Yeah. Yeah. And these other computers we're going to mention, like the TRS-80, it had BASIC, but it had like its special BASIC, right? It had the level 1, the level 2, the level 3, which was kind of built on it. And I don't think the PET ever had anything other than just the normal out of the box BASIC, and Apple had Apple BASIC. So that might be a reason, I'm not sure. But for the TRS-80, these games are like all in black and white. There's usually no sound effects at all. But it's like the RPG home. There's a lot of text-based RPGs on the TRS-80, and there are occasionally other games as well. But that's really what I think it's known for as far as the first year of its existence. And then the Apple II, that one is the one that seems to be more advanced. It has color. It has more advanced graphics, including some 3D-ish graphics with perspective and stuff. It has sound effects. It has even some RPGs. I mean, like Haunted House. So that one seems to be, I don't know, the most capable of the systems. But it's interesting to see the differences between them.
Yeah, for sure.
So what's your like just kind of general experience with these, Wes? Do you like sigh whenever you get like a PET one, or are you like, okay, whatever,
Well, I gotta say, PET ones are usually the ones that I'm not looking forward to. The Zap, however, just totally blew that expectation out of the water because maybe because of how simple the game is or the way that it was coded, it runs really well. At least the emulated version that I played, I think. So that really surprised me. TRS-80, it's the one where I'm also a little bit like, I mean, I like these RPGs, but if it's just all text RPGs, I could use a little bit more.
Right.
And Apple, yeah, I don't know. A lot of people making games for it. Color, of course, is a huge factor just for the visuals. So I'm always excited to see what's coming out for those. It's exciting whenever there's something on TRS-80 or Commodore PET where it's like, I didn't know this computer could do this, but it doesn't feel like we've had that many of them, where the Apple II is always like, wow, look what they made first-person perspective maze in this and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah, I think the black and white of the TRS-80 and the fact that there's usually no sound effects at all really hold it back. Because I think, to me, it's not that big of a leap to have like a text-based RPG and then just throw a couple sprites, a couple little animations, and it could be really cool. And I think we are going to see that, but the problem is it's still going to be in black and white and probably with no sound. So
right.
I feel like it's just lacking a couple kind of essential features. The PET, I don't really have a lot of faith in right now.
Yeah.
To be honest. The low frame rates of it, it's just not the best. But the Apple II seems like it can handle a lot. Even like the Bomber game you played from Bob Bishop had that crazy voxel almost explosion animation.
Right. Yeah, where
and
all,
it
all
was
the
like
pixels.
Yeah, and it wasn't like in 2 frames a second. So I feel like of these three, the Apple II is really the king for me right now.
Absolutely. And there's plenty of room in the future for these companies to stir it up. The more I do research, the more I'm looking at the next incarnation of Commodore and being like, okay, that's going to be really exciting to see. But for now, Apple II is reigning supreme for me too.
Yeah, it's just very interesting because especially I believe at this time the TRS-80 is the most popular of the three.
Right.
So,
and I think part of it is the distribution. I know we talked about with the TRS-80 since it's Radio Shack. Part of it might have been that they were just like able to sell more, but yeah.
Right. Yeah, so I wonder if Apple II, how much more premium that was compared to the others, but
yeah.
Even still, even if it is the most premium, it has like the most premium games, and that's good for us.
yeah, exactly. We're happy enough to take a look back at it and be like, this is obviously the best. How did no one buy this? Even if we're missing a little bit of like historical context.
Right. Well, going forward, we have I think one new computer coming out this year yet.
Okay.
I don't think there's many games for it, but we'll cover it when we get there. And then I want to say another 1 or 2 new computers next year. So we'll have to revisit this next year and see where these 3 computers still stack up in the listing. But, we have covered many other computers like the Sol 20 and the Altair and all these other ones, but these are the Holy Trinity, right? So it's important to keep a special eye on these ones, I think.
Right, for sure.
So, that's kind of like a little overview reminder about these 3. Like every single one of them is critically important to the history of video games. So we do our best to watch out and let you guys know if there's been any updates. So without further ado, let's take a small break and head into the games.
Hey everybody, welcome back from that short musical interlude. Now let's take a look at the games we're going to talk about today in our timeline. The first one we have up is Deck War. which was made by the University of Texas at Austin for the PDP-10. It was made by a group of students or an unknown author at the University of Texas at Austin. For right now, though, we know it came out in August of 78, but we're not going to cover it today because it seems like version 1.0 is lost. So we're going to wait until next year when we can play it. But this is definitely something that we want to take a look at because it looks like it was basically a multiplayer version of Star Trek that operated in real time with up to 18 players. So it sounds kind of crazy. We'll take a look at it later. But for now, just wanted to make you aware that it did come out right now.
Right. And then another one here that we're just going to mention is Star Trek version 3.3 by Lance Miklas. Everyone's getting in on the Star Trek numbers now. But this is another version of the 71 Star Trek that had blocky sprites and some simple animations, like a explosion animation, for instance. But it didn't have any color. I think it was for the TRS-80, obviously. But it seems like a pretty cool little take, a little, updated version of this game from Lance Miklas, who's the same guy who did Treasure Hunt, which I did review, although it was like a Hunt the Wumpus game, which was not good.
Right.
But we'll have to keep an eye, see what else this guy makes. This one wasn't too bad. It's just not very different from other ones that we've reviewed. So moving on from that, we're going to get into the first one that I reviewed here today called Super Breakout, which this is a pretty big game. Came out in September of 78. Hopefully everybody knows Breakout is one of the most popular games to have ever come out in the 70s, and it was cloned to death. We're still seeing clones from it. And now it's been 2 years, so Atari's like, you know what, let's go back and we'll make a super version. So we'll see how that holds up now that we're in 78. So this version is interesting. It has 3 different game modes, and that's really its selling point, the 3 different game modes. Interestingly enough, though, original Breakout is not one of the modes, which I think is very strange.
Yeah.
The one that's closest to original Breakout is probably the one called Progressive. And this one is just like Breakout, except the rows will slowly go down the screen. So it kind of has a Tetris effect, or more accurately, a Space Invaders effect.
Right.
Which came out a couple months ago. So the rows will slowly go down the screen. I don't think they can go all the way to your paddle, although I'm not positive about that. I think they can only go down a couple rows. And new ones will come in from the top as well. So it's an interesting mode, but there's not too much to add. Unlike the original game of Breakout, which is just like all blocks at the top, this one, you've got kind of like a row of 4 to 5 blocks deep, and then some space, and then another row of 4 to 5 blocks deep. So you have this space in the middle, which can be fun when your ball gets stuck in there, and it can hit many, many times before it cuts back down to the paddle. So that extra space can make it kind of fun. But to me, this one's very similar to normal Breakout. It just might be a little harder because the bricks are moving down towards you, and that gives you less reaction time to hit the ball with your paddle. And the paddle in this game is pretty small. So, and I think after a certain amount of time, it gets even smaller. So I would say it's quite difficult. But, that's the one that's most similar to Breakout, I think. The other ones involve multiple balls. So we have one called Cavity, which is probably my favorite because it's just normal Breakout, except you have these 2 cavities in the bricks where there's a ball inside the cavity, and it's just kind of going around, hitting off the sides of the bricks there, but it doesn't destroy them. And once you get, break open into that cavity, now you're going to have 2 balls on the screen, which for the most part, you're only going to be having those 2 balls for like a second before you lose one, and it goes back to normal. But at least you can kind of juggle around 2 balls, maybe even 3 if you get the other cavity open as well. So I kind of like that mode. It's a little different. It seems kind of reminiscent of actually more modern kind of takes on Breakout. But that's one of the other game modes. And then the last game mode is called Double. And this one, you just start with 2 balls right away, and you have 2 paddles. Unfortunately, you're almost assuredly going to lose a ball really quickly. So really, it feels like more of a game where you have 2 paddles. That's it.
Right. Yeah.
Kind of just stacked on top of one another, and then the play field is just kind of very normal Breakout. Just a big block at the top.
Do you move those independently, or do they move together?
They move together.
Got it.
So yeah,
That makes spacing a nightmare.
yeah, no 2-player versions on this. Which we have seen some 2-player versions of Breakout, but this is all 1-player, and it's just those 3 game modes, and that's kind of it. And I was thinking, oh, maybe you can play each one of the game modes with a quarter or something like that, but no, it's like a separate quarter for each one. So,
Oh, jeez.
yeah, they're looking to get some money out of you. I kind of want to move right into my ratings to talk about like graphics, for instance. So, talking about the graphics, I gave it a 1.75 out of 10. This is actually lower than I gave normal Breakout, and that's because despite this being 2 years older and the technology is so much older, it's still using plastic overlays on the screen. And I just feel like there's no reason why they couldn't just do true color. Doesn't really make sense to me. Maybe there was really some sort of technical limitation at the time, but looking back on it, like I was watching some people play it on the original arcade machine, and like sometimes the plastic overlays can be like not perfect. Like if the bricks aren't perfectly in line with the plastic overlay, you're gonna have bricks that are like split in half into 2 different colors.
Right.
So it's like it can be a problem, and obviously like the ball will change colors when it's over the different overlays, and I just don't think it looks as nice as if it was just in true color. So I don't know. I feel like technology has advanced, but they didn't take it. So I don't think it looks. I mean, it looks the same as it did 2 years ago, but you know, it doesn't look any better than that. It's a couple different colors here. The overlay is it's got some blue, some yellow, some green, some orange, but I don't know. It just wasn't very impressive, and obviously, it's just bricks and pong paddles and a pong ball, and the ball is even like a square. So
Yeah.
not the best. It does look very fluid, but I don't know. There's still like instances where the ball can kind of like almost like clip through some of the bricks. It looks like the hit detection is not perfect on them either, so that can kind of mess up the graphics a little bit for me too. So moving on, let's do sound real fast. This is just pong beeps and pong sounds. I'm gonna give it a 1.25 because I think there is 1 or 2 more unique songs than was in like original Pong, and it is really fun once you get, you know, in some of the game modes you can kind of get the ball stuck in certain areas where it kind of hits off a bajillion bricks really quickly, and that sounds really cool. I think maybe even they were going for more of a pinball machine kind of sound where the ball, when it hits a brick, it's not just a single beep, it's like a couple beeps. So that means when you get a lot of bricks in a row, it's just beep, 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 you know, forever. So
Right.
that kind of sounds nice, but it's just beeps. So, I mean, I feel like they could have easily thrown a little jingle in at the beginning, but they didn't. So just 1.25 for me there. And for gameplay, I just gave it a 2 out of 10. I didn't think that the variations were that cool, honestly. Definitely was expecting more than 3, too. Like, Breakout already came out on the 2600, right? And I'm almost assured that it has more than 3 variations on the 2600. And it's probably in true color as well on a home console that they made. So, it's just very strange. I feel like this is just a cash-in, you know? That's my opinion. The actual arcade cabinet, I want to say really quick, it does look good. You've got, you know, the guy breaking out of jail vibe, which the original Breakout had. But I don't know. To me, it's just kind of not really innovating in the ways I was hoping. You know, Atari is like the person for Breakout. So if they wanted to, I'm sure they could have done better with this. But I don't think they did. And the weird thing is that this game, even though it is kind of simple, it's gonna sell a lot. So for gameplay, I gave it 2 out of 10. But moving into relevance, it was hard. I gave it a 7 because it did sell a lot, and there's a lot of clones that we're gonna have of Super Breakout. So this is a very well remembered and well played game. Even back then, I think people weren't tired of Breakout yet. When they saw that next version of it, they just ate it up. And to be honest, there is a timeless quality about Breakout, and these variations are pretty cool. I just don't think that they're that different enough where I would play them more than once. So that kind of leaves me with my overall feeling of it at a 1.75 out of 10. Honestly, I was a little disappointed. I think there's some very obvious things that just didn't happen, like it being in true color, like it having music. Like those are just things I'm expecting at this point, especially from Atari, from a game where the gameplay is this simple. I think the actual gameplay is fine, but it's just missing some of the extra features. Like we've seen Breakout done in some of the clones where there's like a literal battleship that just crosses the screen you can hit, you know? So, you know, I just feel like for the variations, they could have done things a little bit more complicated and had more features to it. But at the moment, it seems like, oh, there's one that's definitely just a rip-up of Space Invaders. You've got one with 2 paddles, and then you've got one with 2 cavities. And the cavities I like the best, but the other 2 are not that interesting. So, to me, anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, honestly, it sounds like they just had a bunch of Breakout hardware sitting around that they couldn't sell, and they were like, well, let's just repurpose it or something, you know?
Right.
Like,
I think they did want to capitalize on Breakout. Now it's been 2 years. They're like, this is still a good property for us. We need to just make something. And this is what they made. So
right. Maybe realize they could make the sales using the same hardware, because I mean, all the games they described, it sounds like it could literally be like making the same cabinet but changing how the game plays, because it doesn't seem like it has any extra capabilities.
I do know that this cabinet used a microchip or a microprocessor, and the original did not. So I believe the whole game was made from scratch again, but it didn't play any differently, which is very strange. Like, what does the microprocessor do for a game that's technically in black and white and just uses bricks and paddles? Like,
yeah,
make the frame rate better, I guess. I mean, it looks good, but it could definitely do more. Like, there's just not, I don't think there's a reason why it wouldn't be able to do more. And that's kind of what I'm thinking. But yeah, it's weird because I don't think it's that cool, but obviously people at the time did. So
right. There's something we're missing.
Yeah. In the generations, I guess. But yeah, it's, I mean, to me, like, you can play Breakout on your home console now. So maybe home consoles are still just so unusual and so expensive that if this wasn't in arcades, people just wouldn't be able to play Breakout. Maybe that's the case. Yeah. I don't know. But for us who have played the console versions, which have been in color, I mean, we played Clowns, you know, the Clowns version on the Bally Astrocade not too long ago.
Yeah.
Is this better than that? I would say no. So, but I feel it's just missing too many features that I'm expecting from Atari in 1978. I mean,
yeah.
Earlier this year, they had freaking Sky Raiders, like 3D graphics. You know, looking at Breakout, it's not the same.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if they're kind of hanging this out there because they know it'll sell, but setting up for something better in the future, you know, almost like planned obsolescence, you know, like,
oh, okay.
Make it like, oh, this is kind of good, but we'll release the real good one next year. Who knows? That's just my guess, because I feel like Atari always has something up their sleeve.
Right.
But moving on to the honorable mentions, as Ben mentioned, there's a lot of Super Breakout stuff. So we have Super Breakout by Namco and Special Break by Rene Pierre, which were both licenses of Super Breakout by Atari, as well as Miracle Super by Esco Trading, Super Crash by Video Games GmbH, or GmbH, Super Knockout by Sub Electro, which were also all Super Breakout clones.
Mm-hmm. And then we also had Mini Breakout by De Giorgio Bruno, which is an Italian version of Super Breakout, or maybe original Breakout. I couldn't quite tell. And then we have Super Block by Taito, Table Attacker Guard by Nichibutsu / Nihon Busan, and Consulate 2000 by Atari, which were all either Breakout or Super Breakout clones. I couldn't tell. We only had like flyers for them, but I believe they're probably more likely to be Super Breakout clones. So with all that being said, yeah, there's a lot of clones for this, and we're gonna continue to see them even into next year.
But let's move on now to the first game I covered and another episode in the journey that is Wesley finds an obscure game that he loves the heck out of. Well, Ben found the game for me, but this is Dog Patch by Midway, which I guess is right up my alley. I don't know what it is with these games, but all the ones that are super weird, the theming's just totally out there. Sometimes the gameplay is just fantastic. So, Dog Patch released in September of 1978. Just to talk about the cabinet itself, I looked up what Dog Patch means. Apparently, it's from, most commonly believed to be from this comic that was going from like the 30s or 40s to 77. So that would kind of make sense. I think it followed like this sort of like hillbilly family, and the place where they lived is called Dog Patch. So it became this term for like rural bumpkin. I don't know, like it just middle of nowhere kind of stuff. So this cabinet, as you might imagine, has a dude who's just, I guess, hillbilly is the way you describe him, lying on his back, pointing a shotgun straight in the air, shooting a can of beans. And the side of the cabinet is an outhouse. And the front is covered with like this wood paneling plastic design, which is really great. There's crazy design all around the screen too. It's like a whole family came to watch these two people come together and shoot cans of beans, which is what the game is about. And the display itself had this nice sort of painted looking design on the background, like we've seen a lot of cabinets do. This one is like this cartoony hill and road with an outhouse, trees and stumps, and the stump is where the referee is standing. So getting into the gameplay for this, it's an interesting like Pong and shooting gallery kind of mashup game. You can play it 1 to 2 players, either one person versus AI or 2 players. And the ref throws a can of beans up into the middle of the screen, and you have to keep shooting it to keep it up in the air because it has gravity. And you also have to keep hitting it back and forth because the goal is to hit it over the other person's head off the side of the screen. So that's where the Pong stuff kind of comes in, and you're shooting from the bottom of the screen. So that's sort of where the shooting gallery stuff comes in. But the more hits that a can gets, the more bonus points build up, sort of like a volley. And whoever shoots the can off screen gets all of the bonus points that accumulated during that round.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it'll get really tense, if you're shooting it back and forth for like 10 seconds because the bonus score just keeps ticking up every time that you hit it back and forth. As far as I could tell, I'm pretty sure it was by hit and not by time. But either way, the longer it goes on, the more points goes to whoever gets it. The can also changes speed and trajectory as it gets hit. The shotguns, which the 2 players are shooting a spread, which is kind of crazy. And it does look like any of the pellets that come out of the shotgun actually count as a hit on the can. And basically, the time limit for it is a set number of can throws per game, which could probably be determined by the person who did the arcade. And there were bonus rounds in between where the ref would let a goose loose that would fly across the screen super fast, diagonally to either side of the screen, and it's worth 50 points if you hit it. Which I forget the scale of shooting the can, but 50 was like 2 or 3 rounds worth of points, basically. So it was a good chunk. But I want to get straight into my ratings for this. For graphics, looking back at this, because I reviewed this a little bit ago, I'm not sure what I was thinking, but I'm going to stand by it. I gave it a 3.5 out of 10. The graphics themselves are just black and white, but as we do with all these games that have the hand-painted style backgrounds, it's hard to ignore how good that background is and how much it lends to the whole visual of the game. So that's super colorful, gives you the cartoony, goofy vibe of the game right off the bat. There's the outhouse in the background, so you know it's going to be fun. And the 2 players also look really good too. You can clearly make out overalls on them and a beat-up hat that they're wearing. They're stick figure-ish, but the way that their clothing's on them looks pretty good. They're kneeling down on one knee, and they have about, I want to say 5 or 6 different positions for their shotgun aiming up in an arc, and all of them look pretty good. The shotgun's not super detailed, but you can definitely tell what's going on. The can itself has this, I think it's white on the top and white on the bottom with a black stripe in the middle, which just the fact that it has that detail, and you can clearly make out that detail as it's spinning across the screen is really cool. And the way that it spins faster when it's shot also just looks really smooth and really good. The pellets that come out of the shotgun are pretty simple white dots, but the fact that it shoots in like this semi-random seeming spread of 4 to 3 pellets is really cool to see in an arcade game. And the goose and the ref are also surprisingly detailed, given the fact that they're just sort of like secondary elements for it. Just the fact that it moves so smoothly and there's so much going on the screen, thanks most likely to the fact that the background they don't even have to worry about. They can just project it onto this hand-painted background. It just looks really good. And there was one small detail which I didn't think would matter that much, but I really appreciated, which is that as the bonus score is counting up in the center of the screen, once that round is scored, the score kind of like shows up on screen. It says 12, and then the number slides over across the screen to whoever's side actually got the score. So it's just this tiny thing, but it's a nice visual effect. It's not just like 12 points and then the player gets 12 points. It actually shows it moving over to the side, so it's a little dramatic. And yeah, I don't know, the vibe is so weird, and they represented it visually really well. So I really liked that. For sounds, I gave it a 2.5 out of 10. The shotgun sound is really short, and it doesn't really get too annoying. It kind of sounds similar to like a really sped up balloon pop from a lot of the other games we've played, the circus games we played recently. But it works really well, and you can shoot really fast in this game. So it's good that it's like this short, loud bang kind of thing. So I like that. The can makes a pong noise beep when it goes off screen, which is whatever, but it honestly feels fine. It kind of makes sense for the game. And there's also a little tune that plays before the goose is released. So even though the sounds didn't really blow me away, I think they all work pretty good for this game. And then for gameplay, I gave it a 3 out of 10. Dogpatch mixes Pong and Shooting Gallery gameplay in this super fun way. There's a lot of frantic, like mashing the trigger, bouncing the can back and forth. You can fire super fast, so it really keeps the action going. The can flies in kind of predictable ways when you shoot it, but it's still hard to hit. Sometimes it'll get these really nice moments where it's right over your head and you can shoot straight up at the last second to keep it in, which is really nice. The goose flying, I wasn't a huge fan of. It's crazy fast, but it seems like in each match, it goes to the same side both times that it shows up. So it makes it a little too predictable. It kind of feels like once you see it the first time, you can just guess the second time, and then that player automatically has an advantage because it's really hard to hit it from the other side. But other than that, the back and forth gameplay with the can is just really fun. I like the bonus point system because it makes things really high stakes the longer a volley goes on. So then for relevance, I gave it a 5 out of 10. I feel like there's a decent amount of can shooting games. I'm thinking particularly about the one that came out for the original Wii that I played a lot of. But I think not many of them have hillbilly theming, so I don't know how much this game directly influenced them. I wouldn't say that this is a totally unique game concept, but I do think it does this really pretty original blend of two different concepts to make a kind of novel game style. So even though I don't know if this was super popular or made a huge impact, I could definitely see it having some level of impact just because it's so strange and this really unique combination of games. So overall, I gave it a 3 out of 10 because it's just a solid game. It's got great visuals, really quirky, weird theme, really fun gameplay, and pretty good sounds to match it. Really, the only improvements I could think of would obviously be better sounds, color graphics, of course, and maybe some mix-ups to the goose's path, because that just kind of seems like a freebie as soon as you figure out how it flies. But honestly, other than that, it's just all around a fun game. It's a weird one. I don't know why I'm attracted to these oddball games so much, but I was totally blown away. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, it kind of has that feeling of like a juggling game for me.
Yes,
I don't think
yeah.
it's exactly the same, but even just like I don't know why For whatever reason, I always go back to like some sort of game where like you're a chef and you're throwing pizzas in the air and you can't let them hit the ground or something.
Right.
I feel like it kind of has that vibe to it. So it's definitely a
Yeah, I
cool
could
one.
definitely see that. Yeah, maybe I'm just drawn to those on arcade games at least, the super frantic gameplay.
Right.
Because I just love how fast you can shoot in this one. It's so tense. It's fun.
Yeah. Cool. I'm glad you liked it. Let's go into a couple more honorable mentions. We've got Football by Exidy, which came out in September. This is a clone of World Cup Soccer by Sega, which we don't have a lot of info for. So I think it's similar to some sort of Pong game.
Makes sense. And the next we have Get Away, I think, and not Get Away. I don't know if it really matters how you say it, by Universal, which seems like a really cool speed race type game where your car can be like partially destroyed and beat up and even on fire, but we don't have too much information about it. And likewise for Get Away by ADP, which is a licensed version of the Universal game.
Mm-hmm. We then have Mycom Block 4 by Huawei, which came out in September. It's another kind of Breakout clone that added obstacles. Might be related to Super Breaker or Super Breakout, but I'm not totally sure. We only had a flyer for that one. And then similarly, we have Mycom Block 2, also known as Uchu Senken Yamato by SNK. And this also came out in September. It was another Breakout clone that added actually a battleship that moves across the screen. That's the one I had mentioned before.
Okay, yeah.
I mixed up the order a little bit, but yeah, so that one is weird. It's like Breakout, but then literally a battleship goes across the screen and you can just hit it and get extra points.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then next we have Pro Racer by Sega, which is maybe another speed race type game. It seems like it's an original property, but we can't find much info on it.
Freaking Sega. And then we also have Star Rub by Universal and Stardust by IREM and IPM, which came out in September. These are both Clean Sweep clones. Why are people still making that in 78? I don't know.
It's what the people want to see.
When did that come out? Like 73? I want to say it was like 73, 74.
73 or 74. It was real early.
Yeah.
And then next we have Variety, aka Variety TV by US Billiards, which is a combination of Breakout, Clean Sweep, and Pong variants. 5 games in total. Yet again, it's what people are looking for, I guess.
It sounds like something that should have come out 3 years ago. Anyway.
Right.
Let's move on to the next one that I did. This one's another one by Midway. We got 2 Midway games today. Dog Patch and Blue Shark, which I reviewed. And this is kind of like a Seawolf type game. It's another in the, you're kind of shooting things across the screen with a light gun kind of deal. But what I really like about this one is that the light gun is actually a harpoon gun. And I don't know, just putting your hands on even a fake harpoon gun is pretty fun.
Yeah.
And the cabinet itself is just really freaking cool. It's got just giant sharks all over it. Really stylized, kind of like a nice comic book style, but a little bit more detailed than that. And the blue shark, which is what the name of the cabinet is, looks really good. I don't know. I just think that this is like one of the coolest looking cabinets because anything shark themed, I don't know. I'm just about it. Like I would totally buy this arcade cabinet and put it in my apartment somewhere. So yeah, I love the looks of this one, and to have a freaking harpoon gun on it, like I'm totally about that. But the actual gameplay is just kind of like you shooting at stuff. So let me talk about a couple of things you can shoot at. You do have a hand-painted background in the background of this, and it's just kind of like of an underwater scene. It's not like crazy or anything, but it's okay. So you have the hand-painted background, and then all the characters on the screen are just in black and white, which is a little disappointing, but they all have really nice animations, which is really good. So for the different sprites that you can shoot at, you have like a little mini octopus, which is probably the worst looking one. It's one of the smallest ones, and it kind of just flings its tentacles around, and weirdly enough, its mouth kind of opens up, so it almost looks like it's talking. It's kind of a very strange octopus. Or maybe it's a squid because it only has 6 tentacles, but I think it's supposed to be an octopus. You also have a diver, which actually, if you shoot the diver, you'll get negative points. So you don't want to shoot the diver. But the diver is really well detailed. He'll move his legs back and forth. He also has bubbles coming out of his like breather thing, and he's got a scuba tank on him, and he's holding a harpoon gun himself.
Oh.
So the diver is really well detailed. And then on top of that, you have two different kinds of sharks. You've got a shark that goes all the way across the screen, kind of in a big circle, and he'll have different sprites for where he's at in the circle. So on the sides, you got kind of like a top-down view of him, and then as he's going left to right, across the top or the bottom, it's more of a sideways view. And if you get the shark when he's super high up, you'll get a lot more points than if you do him further down. When he passes down like the bottom of the screen, it's actually a larger sprite to kind of indicate, that he's closer, and he'll move slower too. So you don't get as many points if you get him then. It's more beneficial if you wait for him to pass, go up towards the top of the screen, and then try to make that far away shot. And then you have a swordfish, and that's the last one. The swordfish again looks pretty cool. He doesn't he's not like on the screen all the time. He kind of shows up sometimes. I'm not sure if if all four sprites can be on the screen at one time, or if the swordfish and the diver have to be separate. But for sure, it seems like there's always at least 3 sprites on the screen. And then you've got the score and the timer, and that's kind of it. But yeah, I mean, it's very simple. We've seen a million games like this, so it doesn't like get me going. But I just think the theming of this game is really cool. So let me get into my scores. Let's start with graphics. I gave it a 2.75 because despite the fact that it's just black and white, you do have a hand-painted background, which is always going to give me extra points. And all of the characters have good animations. They're all moving, they're all wiggling around. The diver, I think, looks really, really good. And the shark and the swordfish, like, they look really good. The octopus, not so much. But, all together, the fact that every single thing has animation and moves across the screen, sometimes in very unique ways, I like that. So it's not a bad looking game by any stretch of the imagination. I do want to mention, actually, you are shooting harpoons. So it's kind of like a long line with a little spear tip at the end. And that's cool too. So it's different.
Nice.
For gameplay, I gave it a 2.25 out of 10. The coolest thing about this game is obviously the fact that you're using a harpoon gun as a light gun. So I think that's really fun. But I don't know. We've seen a million Seawolf type games like this where you're just shooting up from the bottom. It's not really other light gun games where you can kind of angle it. It's more just like you kind of point it to the right and then it'll come up from the right and go in a straight line to the top. So I don't know. It's an okay light gun game, I guess, that we've seen tons of these.
Right.
So the gameplay is not anything crazy. As far as the actual like strategy of how to play it, I do like that you can kind of wait out the shark. I do like that you have to not hit the diver. And the octopus is interesting because that'll just like appear in one place for a very short time and then move. And then move and then move and move. So he's really hard to hit. He's worth a lot of points and is smaller. And he's on the screen like the whole time because he's always there and moving. So each object is very different in how it works and what the point values are. So I like that. So, but it's not changing the world. So,
right.
For sound, I gave it a 2.25 out of 10. You have the harpoon swoosh. That's really nice. I like that. And then you've got some beeps for when you hit something. Weirdly enough, though, whenever you fire your gun, you get the swoosh, but then you also get what to me sounds like a laser blast sound. I don't know. It's a very strange combination of beeps that I don't know really fits there. I'm not really sure what it would sound like, if you hit a fish or something, but
probably not that.
Yeah, I don't think this is it. So I don't think the sound effects are like the meat and potatoes of this game, but at least you have the swish of the harpoon, and that does sound good. So I think that the most important part was done. I would really like a little tune or something, but I don't believe you get that in this game. So a little lacking there. For relevance, I don't know. I just gave it a 4.75 out of 10. I don't think this game sold that well. It didn't really innovate in any way. I think it's just kind of a novelty game for that arcade that's like, oh yeah, I could use a harpoon in my arcade.
Right.
And with that, it does really well. I think this one, honestly, it's more just like I want this one because the cabinet is so cool. And when Jaws came out, we had that influx of shark games, and then we haven't seen them since then. Like no one's made a shark game, and to have one back, I'm kind of really happy we have one again. So for overall, I give it a 2.75 out of 10. It's not game of the year potential, but it might be one of my personal favorites, just because of the theming. The gameplay is a little boring, if I'm being honest, but I mean, come on, you can't knock the fact that you got a freaking harpoon in your hands. So
That's the real lesson to be learned here,
yeah,
Just like M79 ambush or whatever it was with the big turret or the grenade launcher, or
yeah. There's one with a bazooka, that we've done.
Adds so much value.
Yeah, and I've never seen a harpoon one, let alone one in a really cool cabinet with a bunch of sharks on it. Like I'm down. I'm ready. So, yeah, if anybody has this and would like to sell it, please hit me up.
Here you go. Well, cool. Yeah, like you said, good to get some shark games again, even if they aren't the most fun. The theming is always cool.
Yeah, and you have a hand painted background, so it's nice to look at. Even if the gameplay is a little boring. Yeah, you could look at that for a while.
Right.
But let's move on. We've got one more little honorable mention here: Blue Shark by Model Racing and Blue Shark by Taito. As you can imagine, they're clones of Blue Shark by Midway.
Big surprise. And then for our last game of the day,
yes.
Second one I got to review, and dare I say, the most important game of this episode. And I was going to say make some big declarative statement, but I can't remember what came out like 3 episodes ago, so I don't want to say like the past 6 months. But we are taking a look at Beneath Apple Manor by Don Worth and published by The Software Factory. And if it doesn't sound familiar, I don't blame you, but this game is super important and awesome. So I'm going to start off with just a bunch of history and random facts about it. First thing, it was originally released on cassette in 78 by The Software Factory, and in 79 it would later be re-released on a floppy disk with the exact same graphics and gameplay. And apparently on the cassette version, one of the big features of this is that you can descend multiple levels down a dungeon, but on the cassette version you had to rewind the tape every time you wanted to descend further to another level of the dungeon. So not ideal for that. But the creator of the game, Don Worth, was a DM for D&D with his own little group of friends. So it makes sense that he wanted to make this type of game, which I should say is D&D inspired and a dungeon crawler, even though Beneath Apple Manor doesn't necessarily scream that right off the bat. It has this really in-depth manual, which is unlike anything we've really ever seen for this type of game, I feel like, or really maybe any game. I mean, we get a lot of manuals in the basic games, but this had pictures and illustrations of the different enemies that show up in the game, explanation of the difficulty settings. The second page is a list of playtesters that it thanks, which is super surprising. It just, maybe all these other games have playtesters, but seeing that just is whoa, this feels like a release from the 90s, the 2000s, or modern. It's so weird to see somebody be like, oh, and thanks to everyone who helped me make this game when we're all the way back in 78. But so that was really impressive, and also had a lot of good information in it. And there was also this one interesting flyer, or I think it was also included on the second page of the manual as well, that compares it to a lot of other contemporary games of the time. So it says it's not as simple as Hunt the Wumpus, and it's not like all those other games like that out there, but it's also a lot easier to learn than Star Trek games. So I think that's really interesting off the bat for a computer game to be saying, here's the two ends of the spectrum. We fall somewhere right in between, but we still have just as much strategy to offer as Star Trek. I think that's a really good marketing idea there because anyone who's familiar with those games would get a good idea of it.
Hmm.
Part of what also makes this important is it's sort of, kind of a roguelike, except before the game Rogue actually comes out. And it's missing permadeath, which is one key feature that Rogue had that sort of defined the whole genre. But what it does have is dungeons with complex gameplay and dungeon crawling, procedural map generation, scaling difficulty, overarching stats that carry over through the levels that you do. So all those are pretty much similar to the game Rogue and characteristics of what a lot of people would define as a roguelike, even though that definition changes from time to time. So it would be more like a roguelite based on what the current definitions of those two words are. But those are still debated to this day of what those exact definitions are because so many games are stretching those boundaries. But there was actually a comment from the author a couple years ago responding to somebody talking about comparing this to Rogue, who said he doesn't believe that the author of Rogue knew much about Beneath Apple Manor. So he's humble enough to say, hey, I wasn't like the first. I didn't inspire Rogue. He thinks that both of them kind of arrived at these ideas independently, which is pretty cool. Although he said to himself that he does like to think of Rogue as a Beneath Apple Manor-like type game, which I think is pretty clever. This is also likely the first commercial CRPG because it was published through the Software Factory, and there's actually story to it too. Very light story, but apparently the Apple family is sort of terrorizing the town, and they had this source of power, the golden apple, but eventually all the members of the Apple family die, and a bunch of people are going to Apple Manor to try and figure out what the power is and plunder the treasure and all that. And so you think you're better than all the people who have failed because you learned spells from a mage friend or something like that. So you go to the manor and find that the whole manor's burned down, but that there's another place you can explore beneath Apple Manor. And Apple, if that's showing up a lot, it is because this was for the Apple II. So it's got a lot of themes of that. And spoiler alert, stop listening if you don't want to know the end of this game, but the golden apple that you find is actually the Apple computer. And that's what gave them all their power. It's this really corny ending that I love where it's like, you found the golden apple, press enter to see all the things that it can do. And then it like brings you to like all the commands that you can do on the Apple computer.
I like it.
I really like it. Yeah, it's pretty cheesy, but it's so good. I love it. And this guy must have loved the Apple as well. But that's sort of just some random facts of why this is important. Let me get into what the gameplay of this actually is. So it starts out, you get to give a set amount of rooms per level between 1 and 20. It recommends 5, so that's what I did. And then it takes some time and it generates a new map. Your character has strength, intelligence, dexterity, and body stats. Strength, yeah, I don't. They could have called it HP because that's all body is, but instead it's just your body stat. Strength determines the damage you deal and also how much gold you can carry, sort of like encumbrance. And it is also depleted when you attack, so you lose strength as you attack, but you only lose it temporarily. Intelligence is effectiveness of your spells and also serves as mana in the same way where you lose it temporarily when you're casting. And dexterity is your accuracy, and it's also depleted as you move around. But with all these stats that are temporarily depleted, in this game you are able to spend turns, basically, because it's like a sort of turn-based game, restoring your stats. So you hit anything on the numbers 1 through 9 to spend that many turns restoring your stats, and it's like 1 of each stat per turn. Or you can hit 0 to just wait until everything's maxed out again. But when you do that, there's a chance that a monster will attack you while you're restoring your stats. But these stats, as you go through, you can spend XP to level up, very similar to Swords and Sorcery. And the map generation reminds me of that as well. And the levels don't scale or the difficulty of the levels doesn't scale if you go back to the entrance, upgrade your stats, and then come back in. So you can kind of over level yourself for the level you're currently on. But as soon as you go down and descend to a new level, everything will be scaled to whatever your stats are as far as difficulty. There's 5 different enemy types that you'll encounter. There's ghosts, green slimes, trolls, worms, and dragons, all of which have different HP, different attack damage, and some have different effects, like the ghost, which permanently drains 1 strength from you anytime that it hits you. Real pain in the butt. And of course, as you're killing these monsters, you get gold, which you can use to buy 2 weapons and I think 3 sets of armor, so not too much. But you can also find a magic sword and magic armor when you're in the levels and treasure chests, which are the best. So not too many options there. And you can find the magic sword pretty early on, so I didn't have much reason to buy the other weapons. There's no permadeath in this. When you die, you reset to your last brain scan, which is what this game calls saves. And there's this interesting system where when you go back to the start of each level, you actually spend gold to make a brain scan if you want. So you don't automatically get a save, you have to pay for it, which is a little punishing, but an interesting theme.
I love that.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
Every single RPG I've ever played so far on this podcast has no saving at all. If you die, you start from level 1 again.
Yeah, and I was realizing that the more I went through this review, this might be the first RPG that has saving. Like, this game is monumental for a bunch of other reasons, but I don't see people talking about that much, and that's pretty gigantic if it is.
I think it is, unless you count knowledge as saving, like in RPGs where, oh, you don't go down that path or you're going to die. You could kind of think about it like progress in each life or something, but not actual saving of stats and data. I don't think so. And maybe some of the Play-Doh ones that are online that had multiple players, I imagine saved your stats at some point. But if you died, I think you just lost the character.
Yeah, I forget how Petit 5 works, but I'm pretty sure, when you died, you lost everything. So it saved in between, but it didn't have a... Yeah, so this is the first that kind of saves in the way, if you die, you have a backup.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really sweet. And just to wrap everything up and give a idea of what the gameplay loop is when you actually play this, you wander through the rooms that are randomly generated, you search for secret rooms, kill monsters and randomly appearing wandering monsters, find chests, and then cash in XP and gold to progress further until you find the golden apple at the bottom of the dungeon. So now, with all of that said, it's time to talk about my ratings for this. And this is a weird situation where I don't know if I actually like this game that much, even though it is objectively important and interesting and kind of incredible. So for graphics, I gave it a 1 out of 10. The original version of this game was just black and white with character graphics for the monsters and players. There was a letter symbolizing each type of monster, and I think an ampersand or an and symbol for your character or something like that. I played the color version, which came out a little bit later, but it's basically the same. And all it does is adds color to the main elements of the game. Everything is just blocks now instead of characters, but they all have a different color. So green slimes are this really bright lime green, and doors are this dark green, and your character is blue, I think. But they're still all just squares. So it's a nice addition that adds a little bit of variety, but it's nothing crazy. My favorite thing about these visuals, though, is also sort of what makes it boring. The whole map starts as black, which isn't that exciting to look at, but as you move, it reveals the map around you in a 1-block radius. So that's really cool because the map kind of looks neat as you're exploring, but even after you've explored everything, most of the screen is still just black and then gray where you've discovered. So I like visually the idea of uncovering the map, but it's not super impressive looking. For sounds as well, I give it a 0.5 out of 10. It seems like the only sounds for this game are little buzzes, kind of like a error noise after each turn. And I couldn't tell exactly when these happen. I think it's either when you search for a secret door and there isn't one, or maybe also when a monster hits you, but either way, it's not that great. Gameplay, though, I did give a 2.5 out of 10. The worst thing about this gameplay is that it moves incredibly slow. Ben warned me about this off the bat, and at first I thought it was just an emulator problem, but another reviewer who was playing this game said it was because it was coded in BASIC, and honestly, I think that makes more sense. Because on the version he was playing as well, it like you press a button and then it takes a little bit to think about it, it shows up, and you have to wait until you see the result of your last action before you can press a button to do the next action. So that was a little bit of a drag, but that aside, the core gameplay is pretty cool. You're exploring through this procedurally generated dungeon, encountering monsters, and finding gear and chests. And I like how investing in stats works and how you can rest to regain your stats that constantly deplete. I thought that was a neat, like, give and take. You can't just keep plowing through the whole dungeon. But that being said, finding secret doors is a little annoying. I basically felt like if I wanted to find everything on a floor, I had to walk along the walls in every single room and just step, hit the button that searches for a secret room, step, hit the button that searches for a secret room. And I got into a rhythm. I could do that pretty fast, but it was a little boring. But it did lead to a cool moment where I found a secret door on the first floor and got the magic sword on like my second room ever in the game.
Nice.
So it's definitely worth it to look for those, but I don't know. It drug the gameplay on even a little bit more. But the whole concept of the gameplay, I do have to say, is really cool. All the ideas in it are good. It's just the game itself, playing it is a little bit tedious. You'll definitely feel like you're making progress when you level up your stats and go to the next level. I was able to start really hitting enemies, and because I had the magic sword, I could hit ghosts. So there's interesting interactions like that. But still, it's pretty gradual. I mean, you're leveling up your stats pretty slowly. So then for relevance, here, of course, is the big one. I gave it a 8 out of 10. Well, I can't really call this the first roguelike or roguelite since it came out before Rogue. It's still incredibly important. It does a lot of the things that a genre-defining game did. So it combines all these cool gameplay ideas. It has the core D&D style with randomly generated maps. And plus, it's the first game that has this like real opt-in saving feature, which is awesome. It does feel a little bad that you have to pay for it, but I mean, hey, they're still working out the idea of having a save feature in a game.
I like it. I feel like you can choose to take risks, you know? Like, oh, I don't want to spend my money now, so I'm going to risk it for this next floor before I save.
The more I think about it, I do like it as well. When I was initially reviewing it, I was like, oh, that kind of sucks, but it scales with, I think, the amount of gold that you're able to make per floor, too. So it's definitely like a strategy type thing. But all that being said, it's just crazy to me that this doesn't get nearly as much love as Rogue does. Maybe it does in the hardcore CRPG community, but I didn't know anything about this game until we started looking at it, whereas Rogue, partly because I play so many roguelikes, I at least like peripherally know. But then overall, that gave me a 2 out of 10, which is weird. Like, I think it's this great, very important game. It's just right now, the game itself isn't that fun. I know there's going to be later incarnations of this, and maybe those will be really awesome. But I don't know. I like all the gameplay elements combined in this. It just feels like it either suffers from the hardware or the coding language or both, because it feels so slow, and it's just not super fun to get into. It's definitely worth playing just to see all the things that it does, but I don't know if I could play it for hours and hours.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much all I had for Beneath Apple Manor. I mean, I don't know. I'm just so conflicted. Like, it was so fun to check out, but I didn't necessarily like the game itself.
Yeah, I think you
but that
said
happens,
it right.
Yeah.
I feel like the idea was better than what the computers could do at the time. Like it's just waiting for technology. It's not waiting for a better idea. And to be honest, I was thinking about it, and roguelikes, it's not even that rogue is like a big genre today, and that's why it's important. Honestly, I feel like roguelikes are the future of games, period. There's just, how can you play a game for hundreds and hundreds of hours if it's not a little different every time? Like even look at a game like WoW. Their last expansion introduced Torghast, which I believe is a rogue-like dungeon where it changes every time you go in, like little modifiers and stuff. I mean, it's like, I feel like it is the kind of future of games too. So like this is the first game that kind of really feels like it could be down that path. And that's just incredible.
Yeah. And I do want to shout out Swords and Sorcery again, because I feel like it did like almost enough things to be as monumental as this, but it was just missing a few elements, like it still did a lot of crazy stuff with leveling up your stats and randomly generated levels. But yeah.
Rogue better than I do. I really don't know the original Rogue that well and how permadeath works in it. But I like that in this game there is saving, and that maybe it's just the roguelike genre that I just enjoy more. But I just like games where you can even go through and die, but you didn't like waste your time. Like you still gained something, and the fact that this has a saving feature means that that's possible. So to me, it feels even more like to the games of today, even than a game that has permadeath. So, but I think that a different person might think that is not the way that things should be done. But to me, I like that. So yeah, it's super cool.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I'm excited. I think it's around 1980 when we'll get to take a look at a Rogue, but who knows? That might be another one where we're like, wow, this is so important, but I don't like it. Like, but it'll be great to see how it does those key gameplay features just a little bit differently.
Yeah. All right, cool. All right, and that's going to do it for us today, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I felt like today we had a lot of good games today. We had Super Breakout, which was probably the worst of the bunch, and yet is one of the most popular games all year from Atari. I think it was actually their best-selling game of the year, so it's kind of crazy. And it wasn't bad or anything, but then we also had Dog Patch by Midway and Blue Shark by Midway, and they were both pretty darn good. And then Beneath Apple Manor, a just incredible early RPG kind of game. So yeah, really cool one today.
Yeah, so make sure to follow us on Twitter if you want to get updates about when our episodes are going live. Send us an email if you have any questions. And as always, check out our website because we've got tons of great information on there about our sources, about all the games we've covered. So if you ever want to go back and look at some other stuff that we've done in our journey, check it out there.
And with that, we will see you guys next week.
See y'all next time.